Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Watch the Throne. I am your host, King Rickie Rose of the Kings of the Rings podcast, where each and every week on this show, exclusively on the Rant with Ant network on rantwithant.com and on Instagram TV at KOTR_podcast, and sometimes on the Instagram feed of Rant with Ant as well on Instagram TV, is where I get to talk about a topic of my choice for a little bit more of an extended period of time than I would normally be able to talk about on the Kings of the Rings podcast main show, which comes out each and every Friday on iTunes and Google Play under Wrestle Addict Radio. Like, share, subscribe. We'd love to get some feedback and hear some comments about what you think about our product. But before we get into the thing that I want to talk about tonight, I do have some house cleaning to do, and like literal house cleaning to do. So I got to get rid of this pile of hot garbage. Now this is an interesting pile of hot garbage. Ugh, okay, it smells like bad decisions and things that should never be allowed ever back in other organizations or things like that. There's some syringes, there's some steroids in there. That looks like there's a couple of journalist papers. There's just a lot of poor things in this pile of hot garbage. You know what? We're gonna call this Crown Jewel. So let me get rid of this hot garbage known as Crown Jewel. I'll be right back. Hold on. Oh God, fucking disgusting. Jeez, get back in there where you came from. Never to be seen again. Care how much money it is. All right. All right. Now that it's over, let's go to talk about things that actually really matter. So you blinked in fall, and now the fall classic of Survivor Series is now up and upon us. And for years, pre-second brand extension, Survivor Series didn't mean shit. No one cared about Survivor Series, and I mean, they tried to make us care, but to be honest with you, Survivor Series just wasn't fitting the bill. You think about what goes on during Survivor Series weekend. It's it's right around Thanksgiving, so you have all the holidays, but you also have pretty much for the most part 3 out of the 4 major sports are active. Football is active, hockey is active, basketball is active, baseball is probably just finishing up around that time. So they're starting winter meetings and people are re-signing and things like that. It is hard for a sports entertainment brand to compete against the 4 major sports in fall. Fall is statistically usually the worst time of viewership for wrestling in general, as well as the fact that a lot of the storylines suck around this time. Not this time around. Not this time around, and not in recent events. And I think a lot of it has to be weighed on the brand extension and re-beefing up Survivor Series. Survivor Series is one of the big 4 pay-per-views: WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, in no particular order whatsoever. But Survivor Series for a long time was like the redheaded stepchild. No one gave a shit about it. Although Survivor Series is the second longest pay-per-view that WWE has, and it was only created, to be honest with you, to fuck with WCW and Ted Turner and, try to combat a big thing that they had called Starrcade. It's the only reason Survivor Series exists. But Survivor Series kind of has its own little niche and its mold, and it's only highlighted now by the second generation of the brand extension. One of the real reasons that the brand extension is such a success now is because Survivor Series got so much better because of it. Because think about it, you have superstars on Raw, superstars on SmackDown, and they never touch each other. They never cross over, only for a couple of times a year. Never cross over. They never interact. You never see one of them on one show and never heard them on another show when they're not supposed to be, unless your name is like John Cena or some shit. And that's what makes it spectacular. So this one time of the year, you get people from Raw and people from SmackDown battling it out. And there was no better way that they displayed that was until last year, when you had these mini invasion angles where SmackDown decimated Raw, Raw decimated SmackDown. There was a ton of crossover, and it was great because you don't see it every week. If you saw it every week, no one would give a shit. But now you have separated in your mind and also in reality that a superstar belongs somewhere. It's how the brain works. So they tell you AJ Styles is on SmackDown, AJ Styles goes into the SmackDown part of your brain. Seth Rollins is on Raw, Seth Rollins goes to the Raw part of your brain. And that's where you keep them there, and your brain is happy, and and everybody's all hunky dory. When all of a sudden, AJ Styles, the SmackDown guy, the SmackDown part of your brain, shows up on Raw, where Seth Rollins is at on the Raw part of your brain, and now your brain's going wild, like somebody's not where they're supposed to be. And now you're like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I can't figure it out. I'm intrigued. I'm interested. I want to see more because I'm trying to psychologically figure it out. And that's what makes Survivor Series a more interesting show now. A much more interesting show. You've had some great matchups since the brand extension now. You've had AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar 1, and they're going at it again this year because I think last year was so damn good. And Brock doesn't really sell for anybody, um, but he's sold for AJ Styles, and I really hope that they can find lightning in the bottle again. You've had women crossover matches. It was Bliss versus I want to say Bliss versus Charlotte last year in women's matches. You have the tag teams were going off for a while. I don't know what they're gonna do with the tag teams this year. There's rumors of a male tag team, Survivor Series 5 and 5, and the women's tag team Survivor Series 5 and 5. Maybe a debut of a women's tag title. Who knows? I really don't care at this point. I'll stop talking about it until it actually happens. And you have all these, in our mind, fantasy matches that you'll never see except for this time of year. And that's what makes Survivor Series so intriguing. It's really hard to take a break in wrestling now at any point of the year because at any point of the year, things can heat up at the snap of a finger. Think about it. We have Brock AJ this year. We have the hottest feud in wrestling right now, in WWE at least, Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, because Becky Lynch is on the role of her career. She's the most over person in the company. She's getting the biggest reactions. She is the top dog of WWE, and she's the man. And the best built feud of Survivor so far. You have the tag teams with the AOP going up against the Bar, which is another thing that Survivor Series does. In the format that they're doing now with all the champions facing off against each other, you give room for some of these up and coming stars, people that you called up to actually shine in a 5-on-5 and get their name out there. This is the all-star game of wrestling. This is a legitimate all-star game of wrestling where it's Team Blue versus Team Red. And a match that I'm very excited about, they haven't really built up. We're only a couple weeks away at this point, is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. This could be Nakamura's coming out party. I really hope it is. He needs a main stage like this. And Seth Rollins is in the middle of a great feud with a silent emo Dean Ambrose. So this has all the makings for a classic barn burn. Also has all the makings for a dusty finish. So Survivor Series is coming up within less than 2 weeks from now. It's going to be a crazy time. We at Kings of the Rings podcast are going to do a crazy crossover episode featuring the Game Changer and Nate the F and Great off of Twitter. It's just wait to see what we come up with and the things that we do. Until then, folks, please check out Kings of the Rings podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at KOTR _podcast. Find me at Ambassador Biggs on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all the fun shit. Check out Rant with Dan on rantwithdan.com and the rest of our WrestleAddict Radio brethren. Gift the podcast, 96.6 Radio, Who Got Next, Decent, Isa the Demon Diva, Repass Food, all on rantwithdan.com, all over social media. We are everywhere. Check out for us on the Wrestling Podcast Awards coming out soon. Hopefully somebody on the network wins. I think we will. I'm not really too worried about that. Maybe I should knock on wood there. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Let me know what you think about Survivor Series. Are you excited for Survivor Series? Do you want to see it happen? Leave some comments in the, below this video. But until then, and until next week, folks, my name is King Rickie Rose, and this is Watch the Throne.